My son and I are about to step into a lavish new chapter of our lives abroad, all thanks to his astonishing $10 million fortune. Once we're settled and you're divorced, good luck trying to manage on your own. Interested in where we're headed? Well, you'll need to humble yourself, kneel, and perhaps even grovel before I consider revealing our destination. What are you talking about? I don't understand, I stammered, utterly bewildered. The revelation of their plans to move overseas and the sudden mention of such a large sum left me speechless. It's quite straightforward. With my son's $10 million, we're ready to embark on a luxurious life in a foreign country, just the two of us, she continued, her tone dripping with satisfaction. But why would my husband leave? And how did he come into this $10 million? If you really want to know, get on your knees, beg, and maybe I'll share the details with you. In the midst of her hostility, I couldn't help but wonder, where was my husband? We're perfectly happy indulging in the extravagant lifestyle that my son's wealth provides, she replied dismissively. It was clear I was no longer relevant in her eyes. Her words hit me like a blow. How had my husband suddenly acquired $10 million, and why was she treating me like an outsider? Anger and confusion swirled within me, but I knew I had to keep my composure and seek the truth. How did my husband come into such a vast fortune? What more could there be behind this mysterious $10 million? I run a successful IT company where I first met my husband. His vibrant and cheerful personality captured my heart, and we eventually tied the knot. Initially, his parents welcomed me warmly, and years later, we were blessed with a daughter, now 12. Having faced a difficult childhood and a strained relationship with my own parents, I was determined to give my daughter all the love and support she deserved while balancing my career and family life. However, everything shifted when my husband was assigned a project in Florida, requiring him to relocate there alone. Managing work, our home, and our daughter became overwhelming. It's going to be tough handling everything on my own, I confided. Maybe we should ask my mother for help, he suggested, hesitantly. I agreed, it seemed like a sensible solution to our challenges. We decided to invite my mother-in-law to stay with us for support. Mommy, when is Daddy coming back? My daughter asked one day. He'll be in Florida for a while, but don't worry, Grandma is coming to stay with us, I reassured her. Little did I know that this decision would soon become one of my greatest regrets. You're working late again, huh? Women who neglect their families. These were the sharp remarks I often faced upon returning home. I have a job too, and I take care of our daughter, I would reply, but her disapproval was ever present. When I was young, family was everything. I never even thought about working outside the home, she would reminisce, her tone steeped in nostalgia. Then, on a day when my daughter received outstanding grades, she declared, "It's all thanks to me." What purpose do you serve? Maybe we don't need you around. Despite her limited involvement, which consisted mainly of helping with simple homework tasks, I was the one teaching our daughter the majority of her subjects. Even the smallest cooking mishap would invite her harsh criticism. How did you and my son ever survive with such poor cooking skills? She would sneer. I'm doing my best, and everyone has their own style, I would respond, my patience wearing thin. She's not doing her chores, she would complain to my husband. Mom, she's working too. Please try to understand, he would defend me during their conversations. But with him away and my mother-in-law living with us, tensions mounted, and I felt increasingly isolated. One evening, I decided to call my husband to share my frustrations. Oh, are you okay right now? He asked, concern in his voice. Yeah, I'm fine. Just a bit overwhelmed. Your mom has been on my case about the house chores, and it's really getting to me, I confessed. I'm sorry. Mom can be sharp-tongued, but maybe there's some truth in what she's saying. Still, don't let it get to you. Just keep doing things at your own pace, he advised, trying to offer reassurance. Despite his support, the daily struggles with my mother-in-law continued to test my resolve. Managing our routine became increasingly challenging with my husband gone. The relentless pressure from her was exhausting, and I found myself counting the days until his return. Initially, I clung to memories of our happier times together, but as the weeks dragged on, her constant criticism became unbearable. She scrutinized everything I did from dawn until dusk. One evening, while preparing my husband's favorite rice dish, she coldly remarked, "This tastes awful. Who would even eat this?" If I dared to take a brief break, she would reprimand me. "How can a woman who can't manage household chores justify taking a break?" she would snap. My husband typically brushed off my minor mistakes with laughter, but in front of my mother-in-law, I felt an intense pressure to be perfect. I suspected her harsh treatment stemmed from her deep affection for her son and her unwillingness to accept that he had chosen to marry me and build a life away from her. This difficult situation only solidified my resolve never to become an overbearing parent like her. One day, after treating myself to a small shopping spree at a local mall to lift my spirits, I returned home to find her waiting at the entrance, seething. "How could you go out and enjoy yourself while your husband is away? What about the household chores?" she confronted me angrily. "I thought I could use a little break," I replied, trying to remain calm in the face of her fury. "A break? All this chaos is due to your incompetence," she shot back. After that harsh exchange, I anxiously awaited a call from my husband, hoping his voice would provide some comfort. But the news he shared was far from reassuring. "I have some bad news," he began. "Things aren't going well for me in Florida. I got caught up in gambling and now I've racked up a significant amount of debt," he confessed over the phone. "Are you serious? Gambling? In debt? This is completely unexpected. What does this mean for our future and our daughter?" I replied, shock and worry flooding my voice. "I'm sorry. I feel trapped right now, but I promise I'll figure something out," he pleaded. "How do you plan to handle this? How much do you owe?" I sought clarity, asking, "What are you planning to do?" His response was simply, "I'm working on a solution." I had always viewed my husband as a dependable and sincere man. He never missed a date, and even after we moved in together, he would always come straight home from work, expressing appreciation for everything I did around the house. His honesty and integrity were the qualities that made me fall in love with him. But now, with him far away and under the relentless barrage of my mother-in-law's criticisms, my life felt increasingly unbearable. "I can't believe someone as useless as you married my son," she would often sneer, her words slicing through me like a knife. As my husband continued his work away from home, the weight of his gambling debts and the ongoing criticism from my mother-in-law deepened my despair. One night, feeling utterly overwhelmed, I found myself sitting alone on a park bench, tears streaming down my face. Then, during dinner one evening, my mother-in-law unearthed a secret from my past, using it to taunt me even more. "So, I heard you used to work in a nightclub. Huh? How shameful that you're raising my grandchild after being in such a place. How did you find out about that?" I asked, stunned. "I was complaining about how useless my son's wife is and showed someone a picture of you. They recognized you. Apparently, you weren't even good at that job," she mocked. Before marrying my husband, I had indeed worked at a nightclub out of financial necessity, a secret I believed he didn't know. I was speechless. I never imagined my mother-in-law would discover this part of my past, let alone wield it against me. "I can't believe someone like you is the mother of my grandchild," she spat venomously, implying I might be kicked out. My heart sank as everything I had built with my husband, my efforts, our future, seemed to unravel under her cruel words. Meanwhile, my husband's communication grew increasingly infrequent, leaving me to face these mounting challenges alone. Doubt and suspicion began to creep in, fueled by those closest to me. One night, I found myself reflecting deeply on my life, how I met my husband, our marriage, the turmoil we faced, and the relentless blame from my mother-in-law. It all felt too overwhelming to bear. I can't take it anymore, I whispered to myself, consumed by despair. I stepped out into the quiet, starless night, the weight of my mother-in-law's critical words about my past and my current situation echoing in my mind. I found solace on a park bench, gazing up at the sky, which felt as dark and empty as I did inside. Then, a familiar voice broke the silence. "Mom, why are you here?" It was my daughter, who sat down beside me and took my hand. "Don't let Grandma get to you. You work hard at your IT job, and you've overcome so much. You're strong." "Thank you, but maybe Grandma is right," I sighed. "Mom, Grandma is stuck in the past. In today's world, any job you've done should make you proud. I'm proud that you worked at a nightclub." "Yes, because it shows you've always done your best for us, no matter the circumstances." "Don't let her words control you," she reassured me. Her words touched my heart deeply. Tears welled in my eyes as she continued. "You're doing such a great job in IT now, right? That's amazing. I'll always support you, no matter what Grandma says." A wave of gratitude flooded through me. Her unwavering support gave me renewed strength and hope that we could face anything together. Later, back in my husband's study, I took a deep breath and dove into a pile of paperwork. I meticulously sifted through each document, trying to unravel the mysteries of his finances, bank statements, credit card bills, loan agreements. Gradually, the details of my husband's financial situation began to emerge. Why did this happen? I wondered, discovering multiple receipts detailing his gambling activities, horse racing, slot machines, and casino visits. The realization of how much money he had squandered was heartbreaking. Turning on his PC, I guessed that the reverse of his birthday would be the password to access his email. Inside, I found numerous collection emails from financial institutions and frantic messages from friends demanding repayment of loans. His inbox was flooded with promotional emails from gambling websites. I decided to tally the total amount he had spent on gambling, and the staggering result was $10 million, far more than I had anticipated. Panic surged within me as the gravity of the situation sank in. I swiftly began strategizing to secure our financial stability. This included tapping into my personal savings, estimating proceeds from selling our high-end electronics and luxury items, and carefully planning our budget based on my salary. Every little detail felt crucial during these critical moments. As I continued my investigation, I contacted various financial institutions daily to fully grasp the extent of my husband's debts. I also obtained credit reports in his name. A few days later, I formulated a plan to lay the groundwork for a life independent of my husband and mother-in-law while figuring out how to manage his debts. Using my expertise in the IT industry, I decided to pursue freelance projects. I quickly assembled a portfolio and signed up on a freelance job platform. Before long, I received my first project request from a client. "This will help cover some of our living expenses," I thought, grateful for the opportunity. While managing my daily work, I meticulously reviewed our household finances. I canceled unnecessary subscriptions, cut back on wasteful spending, and researched budget-friendly recipes to reduce our food costs. With insights from local moms, I organized a community yard sale, successfully selling branded items and extra electronics for a decent sum. As my freelance work gained momentum over the following weeks, I began to feel more secure about our financial future. My bank account had grown enough to cover our essential living expenses. But one day when I returned home, I was startled to find that all of my mother-in-law's belongings were gone. Just then, my phone rang. It was her. "Oh, are you already home? Did you notice our stuff is gone?" Her voice dripped with arrogance. "What are you trying to say?" I asked cautiously. "My son and I are starting a luxurious life abroad with his $10 million. Once you divorce, You won't be able to make ends meet. If you want our address, get on your knees and lick my shoes," she declared, her tone haughty. I couldn't help but chuckle. That $10 million is a debt. "Stop joking. There's no way my son has that kind of debt," she retorted confidently. "You might not believe it, but it's the truth," I replied, armed with the facts from my investigation and the late-night silence of our home echoing around me. I sat amidst the stark reality laid bare in my husband's study. Bank transactions, credit card statements, and contracts cluttered the desk, damning evidence of his gambling debts. The computer screen flickered with a relentless stream of emails and desperate messages from friends demanding repayment, while promotional emails from gambling websites cluttered his inbox. "If you don't believe me, why not check for yourself?" I said to my mother-in-law over the phone, despite her protests of disbelief. "You must be mistaken," she insisted, her tone dripping with skepticism. "I'm looking right at it. Gambling debts from horse racing, slot machines, and casinos totaling an astonishing $10 million. I've just emailed you the evidence. Please take a look when you can," I explained, struggling to keep my voice steady. Silence hung in the air for a moment before she finally spoke, her tone softening. "I didn't know about this. He probably hid it to spare us the worry, but now I see. I've been grappling with how we'll manage this mountain of debt, thinking it was our joint burden to bear, but perhaps that's not the case," I said, a mix of sorrow and determination flooding my voice. After a pause that felt like an eternity, she finally admitted, "I'm at a loss for words. I truly didn't know." We ended the call shortly after, each of us left to ponder the weight of our newfound understanding. Despite the chaos wrought by my husband and mother-in-law's initially planned escape to a lavish life abroad, built on what turned out to be a grave misunderstanding of financial realities, I resolved to carve a new path for my daughter and me. I had to protect our future, no matter how crumbling the circumstances around us appeared. Later, my husband reached out, his voice heavy with regret. "I'm so deeply sorry. I never meant for things to spiral out of control," he confessed. "Our family is disintegrating because of your actions. How did you let it get this far?" I demanded, my tone sharp with pent-up frustration and hurt. He sighed heavily. "I got caught up in dreams of a different life with my mom, ignoring the harsh realities we faced here. I never anticipated the devastating consequences of my choices, promises to her at the expense of our daughter's future. How could you prioritize anything over her well-being?" I pressed, unable to mask the betrayal coursing through me. After a tense silence, he responded quietly, "I thought I was doing what was best at the time. I see now how wrong I was. Do you still care about us? About your family?" I asked, dreading his answer. "I always will, but I understand if you can't see past this. Perhaps it's best if you and our daughter move on without me," he admitted, his voice breaking with emotion, as his sobs filled the silence that followed. I hung up the phone, a mix of sadness and determination settling in. It was clear I had to rebuild from the ground up, focusing solely on the well-being of my daughter and myself. The error of misreading a bill as a $10 million lottery win had set this chain of events in motion, but it was up to me to steer our course toward stability and recovery. As my mother-in-law plotted their supposed dream relocation overseas, she had convinced my husband to accompany her, both blissfully unaware of the crucial mistake that had fueled their plans. It was a bill, not a lottery win. Believing that starting anew abroad might mitigate their financial troubles, my husband naively agreed to the move. When I uncovered the truth behind their intentions and the financial blunder, my frustration and anger toward him intensified. Determined to protect myself and my daughter, I began consulting with a lawyer, preparing for a divorce and ensuring we could secure emotional distress compensation and child support. This marked a turning point. A new beginning was unfolding for my daughter and me, free from the disillusionment brought on by my husband and his mother. During this transformative period, my daughter and I grew incredibly close. Her unwavering support in my decision to start anew became my pillar of strength. Each affirmation from her filled me with a mix of relief and gratitude, making our shared emotional turmoil seem worthwhile. Meanwhile, the reality of life overseas quickly soured for my mother-in-law and husband. Their ill-prepared venture was marred by financial instability and unexpected challenges, including a significant loss of their remaining funds to pickpockets, complicated further by language barriers. Their lack of foresight ultimately led to deportation due to visa overstays. Back home, through careful negotiations led by my attorney, the terms of the divorce were finalized. My husband would pay a single lump sum for emotional distress compensation and child support. While this brought a formal end to our marriage, my lawyer suggested considering installment payments instead, citing my husband's continued financial irresponsibility and new debts owed to dubious lenders. As my mother-in-law faced dire consequences from their failed adventure, evicted and penniless after being robbed, she returned to the U.S., only to find herself homeless. In contrast, I felt a profound sense of peace as my daughter and I embraced our new chapter. Though it came with its own set of challenges, being free from the past chaos allowed us to face the future with renewed optimism, determined to build a joyful, stable life. My daughter stood by my side as a beacon of hope. Together, we navigated our way through the dark times, now looking forward to brighter days with resilient spirits and hearts full of hope.